everyone, it's Teresa here with Culture Engineered, and this week we're wrapping up our conversation on difficult conversations. So a little change of course today. I really was thinking about this earlier, and while I had intended this week to focus more on attendance issues, we get a lot of questions on how to talk about attendance issues with employees, which is an important question, but I really got a lot of great questions and feedback from last week's conversation around communicating change. And actually the whole series has been really valuable, and I couldn't help but think, maybe I'm missing the most important conversation in this series, which is the importance of having these conversations at all. The difficult conversations, and there are plenty of types of difficult conversations, but really, why is it important to have difficult conversations at all in the workplace? So many times I run across situations where people just don't want to have them and issues come up. And I think back to a couple of years ago, I had a job. It was my favorite job. I was obsessed with that job. I worked around the clock, not out of responsibility I loved it. I would come home at 2 o'clock in the morning from being out with friends and go and work on my computer just because I loved it so much. And my friends were tired of hearing about it. My family was tired of hearing about it because, again, I talked about it all the time, and I was recognized a lot for performance. It was just an exciting time, and within 1 year, it went to the job I hated most. Within just 1 year's time, actually a little less than 1 year, it changed. It became a job where I was emotional at home. I would come home from work just so upset, crying out of frustration, dreading going into work. I really was mourning the loss of the job that I loved. And I attributed it, for a long time to a change in managers. I had one director that I still love and admire today, and then transferred, that director left, and another person replaced her. And I attributed it to that. And that had a part of the drastic change, but it really wasn't until I recently realized the true change, what took me from loving the job to hating the job, happened months before, when we as an organization stopped seeing value in having the difficult discussions. That was really what ultimately led to even someone like that director I reported to coming into an organization. And I don't talk about this a lot with clients or anything because it's a very personal story, but I missed the signs, because each time we avoid a difficult conversation, we compromise our authenticity, whether it's me as an individual or collectively as a company. We compromise that authenticity for easy and miss an opportunity to truly connect people to our company's mission and to connect with each other. And companies, although they don't, through this behavior change overnight, it happens quick. Each conversation happening throughout the day, and they seem to rapidly multiply. Once you set the precedent, it's amazing how quickly that thought persists throughout an organization, that precedence, going for easy rather than authentic. And, so I missed the signs. I didn't really think about it when, managers didn't want to, or leader didn't want to include manager retention as part of how we valued managers in their effectiveness at work. I kind of shrugged it off with our VP when our VP of HR said that, when we were working side by side with operational leaders, learning the aspects of the job and how it translated to success in our business, she said, that was a waste of our time and energy. But then I remember my stomach churned when the leaders of that organization one day said that they didn't want to do an employee survey before rolling out employee initiatives because they just didn't want to, have those difficult conversations and questions to face. But I definitely remember being heartbroken when the leader of that organization decided to go through a fairly large layoff right before the holidays, even though we knew there'd be cost savings in holding out until after the holidays. All for the purpose, he said, to be who we want to be in the new year. So I shouldn't have then been surprised when my new director asked me to go out for drinks with them after work. And when I declined, that day walked into a performance discussion and was told that my performance, recognized just months before by the company as a whole, was no longer satisfactory. So the point in my saying this and talking about this today is because I want to point out that my best job didn't become my worst job overnight, but it was less than a year. The same job that I couldn't stop working for. My initial director, I remember, prohibited me from coming to the office after a car accident because I just wanted to go work so badly. It was the same job that night after night I would go home crying to my family because I just felt so trapped in the job. That happened pretty quickly, and it all happened because, again, we stopped valuing our authenticity and talking about truth in our workplace because we didn't want to have difficult conversations. So when you have difficult conversations, you really decide who you are. Some of the best conversations I've been part of were those very conversations. One I can think of, we had a 30-year tenured employee show up to work impaired. Not a blip on his record prior to then, but showed up to work impaired. We knew he had a lot going on at home. It was really a bad situation. And we didn't know what to do. And talked with our attorney, and our attorney pretty much said, either way, you're subject to some risk from a legal standpoint. If you fire him or don't fire him, or anything in between. And we in that moment had to decide, okay, that aside, let's decide what the organization, who this organization is. And I got to witness those leaders talk about it. Or another time, I remember, that a family-owned company was having employee issues, and it was uncovered that employees thought the owners were they were earning a lot more revenue, and the employees thought that the owners were just pocketing it, and they grew very resentful. And in that discussion, I remember learning from the owners that they were still operating at a loss and had not yet taken a paycheck from that company in 2 years, and working with them to try and figure out how to communicate that to their organization and create a more aligned group. So again, they got to decide who they were because they were willing to have the difficult conversation. So although we've had a lot of great tips this week about how to talk to employees about performance and behavioral issues and change, the biggest and most important part of this series, if you take away anything, is have the difficult conversations. It's really important for a successful business and for employees to value the contributions they're making to the workplace. Shoot straight with people, and they'll surprise you. So, as always, if you need any help with those conversations, contact Culture Engineered, but hopefully that helps you to have a much more effective conversation in your workplace. Thanks.